Hi, I'm Nate Adams, sometimes known as Nate the House Whisperer, and today I want to talk about problems with Foobot indoor air quality monitors. So if you've been following our work, you'll know that we are big fans of these little devices. And originally that wasn't the case. So this is an article that I wrote about 3 years ago now. It's the first substantive comparative review between the consumer grade air quality monitors. And when I first got the Foobot, I actually didn't like the light that much. I much preferred the Aware with the number. And over time, I came to really enjoy how I could just take a quick look at the light, see if there was a problem. And if there is a problem, it's really easy. You just double tap it, the thing turns purple, and you heard my phone buzz. It just sent a reading to the phone. This is kind of fun. Like I can blow into it. Our daughter is 5 now, but when she was 2, she'd see this thing turn orange and say, Foobot angry. So a 2-year-old understood air quality because of this simple light, and I really like that about it. So between the really simple interface, the nice app, and some other features, I came to really like this. It also was the only monitor. So when you see this comparison, I didn't have a good reference instrument. So reference instruments for this, a really accurate laboratory grade instrument can be $20,000 to $100,000. I was doing this on a shoestring. I was just messing around. What I wanted to understand was, are these things good enough to actually be useful? And we found that they definitely are, and that has now been backed up by a bunch of air quality researchers. So Lawrence Berkeley National Labs found that these are pretty accurate, like as good as you can expect. I mean, if you're comparing this versus a $50,000 device, do you really expect a $200 device to play perfectly with that? No, it's different uses. But they found that Foobot and a few other devices were reliable enough to be decent indicators, decent proxies for air quality. And that was nice to see the work from this article backed up with some proper work instead of me just taking a bunch of these things together, waiting for something to happen, and then going and checking all the apps to see whether the different devices were catching things or not. And over time, I really came to trust the Foobot. When there was something where I knew there was a dust problem, I'd burned something in the kitchen. Which is now better now that we have induction versus gas, but I still definitely toast stuff sometimes. Or the neighbors were having a fire in the fire pit, and so the dust was coming in. There were all sorts of things that were setting it off every time the Foobot went off, and a lot of the other monitors missed things. So I came to trust that. And then the VOC sensor, the volatile organic compound sensor, which is chemical pollutants, came to trust that quite a bit as well. So whenever there was a known event, Foobot was alarming to it, and I was really appreciative of that. So a bunch of different things came together, and I ended up liking it better, even though initially I didn't like either A, the looks, or B, the light. So that said, go check out that article. If you just Google best air quality monitors, it usually comes up on the top, or I'll flash a link here. Okay, let's talk about the problems that Foobot has. So there's 5 big ones that I hear about consistently. So the carbon dioxide readings are not accurate. We're going to talk about that. The dust sensors tend to get stuck sometimes. The VOC sensor, the chemical pollutant sensor, gets stuck sometimes. The light can be very bright. I mean, if you can see, like, it'll shine on my face. If you have this in your bedroom, that can be a problem. It'll keep you up. And then the last thing is that the data on the app can be tough to read if you're trying to figure out what's going on or look back over a substantial time frame. So we're going to talk about problems and solutions to those things. Okay, so let's start with carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a very common proxy. So a proxy is a metric that stands in for something else. Like BMI, body mass index, is a proxy for health and being overweight. So is it perfect? No, but with that one number you have an idea of whether there's a problem or not. So carbon dioxide in the commercial world, so meaning like commercial buildings, industrial buildings, is a very common proxy for air quality. because we as humans exhale lots of carbon dioxide after inhaling oxygen. So if the carbon dioxide levels get really high, it's a sign that the air needs to be refreshed. So it's a very common thing, and it's also relatively easy and inexpensive to measure. And it also has pretty substantial cognitive effects. So this is a Berkeley study from 2012, if memory serves correctly, that shows pretty normal carbon dioxide readings. So 1,000 parts per million, your house is probably there a lot. Your bedroom's probably there every single night. 2,500 parts per million, and by the way, base is about 400 to 450. That's atmospheric conditions. 2,500 if you sleep in your bedroom with the door closed and you don't run the furnace fan, particularly if there's two of you in there, you're going to drive levels possibly that high. And at 2,500, your cognitive functions really start falling off a cliff. So that means that carbon dioxide is something to watch, and I agree, but I disagree on exactly how to do it with how a lot of people usually do it. So a couple of things to note. Readings from Foobot about carbon dioxide are not accurate. They can be kind of sort of okay on the low side, say below 1,000 parts per million. Once they get beyond that, they are an extrapolation off of the VOC sensor, the volatile organic compound or chemical pollutant sensor. So you'll get these readings that are insane. You'll see 4, 5, 6,000 parts per million. That's not realistic. You're not there. If you happen to have a separate carbon dioxide monitor, you'll find they don't line up. One of the things that drives me nuts about this is A, that it's still on the device, and it's because it's such a common proxy, but B, that so many people discount this monitor because those readings are far from accurate, and I understand it really just shouldn't be on there. But let's talk about what we're really trying to accomplish. Like if you're here watching this, you may have an issue in your house, or you suspect you have an issue where the air in your house is not particularly healthy and it could be affecting your health. So we talk about the health thief. This is an article that I wrote for Healthy Indoors magazine, May of 2018. There's a link at the bottom there. I'll flash a link as well. And what I talked about in this is proxies. So going back to that, we can only measure a few things. These devices are inexpensive, so this is about $200, and most of the devices are between $150 and $300 for doing this, compared to the very expensive reference instruments. A good start for the reference instruments is like $4,000 or $5,000, and then they just go up from there. We aren't going to be able to do that for most people. If you're like me, you're not going to go spend $5,000 on a monitor to watch the quality of the air in your house. But $200 might be in the ballpark. So if that's the case, we need to pick a proxy. And we don't necessarily need really high resolution data. So the image you see here, this is kind of my little joke. When you're catching a thief, you usually catch a thief with low resolution video. You know, you're looking for license plate numbers and maybe a face, things like that. That's how thieves get caught. They get caught through continuous low resolution video in most cases. You're not going to catch them in their wedding photograph, which is this really high quality thing, which would be like a reference instrument. So if we're going to have lower quality, lower resolution data, what do we want to have? And to me, I would much rather have VOC, the volatile organic compounds sensor, versus carbon dioxide. So here's why. VOC sensors pick up all kinds of stuff, which can be a little bit annoying. We'll touch on that in a minute. But the carbon dioxide sensors are only slightly cross-sensitive to chemical pollutants. The VOC picks up carbon dioxide, it picks up carbon monoxide, it picks up a bunch of different cleaners, a bunch of different chemical pollutants. It finds all kinds of different things. So if we can only choose a few things to measure, I'd rather have something that has a wider range of measurements. I'd like it to catch more things because maybe we can figure out what the problem is. So please give me VOC over carbon dioxide sensors if we have to make a choice. Now, like I mentioned, with VOC, you're going to have to be a detective. So You want to check the timestamps for when spikes happen. If it's consistently happening in the middle of the night and you have the thing in your bedroom, it's probably you breathing carbon dioxide out. That's probably what it's picking up. If it happens while you're cleaning, it's probably the cleaner you're using, or it could be the dust. If it happens while you're cooking, you may need to run the range hood or get a range hood. There's lots of different things that can happen here. But it's important that even though you need to be a detective, you can find more things. You're much more likely to catch the health thief. If your house is making you sick, this is going to help you catch that thief much more easily. So here are the recommendations. In fact, I'm going to flip forward for a second here. This is a screenshot of the dashboard of the Foobot. So this is one of the things that we really, really like about this. You can chart multiple monitors against each other. So this is a client, and you can see this is their TVOC levels. For the most part, the threshold is at 300. They're running below that threshold pretty much all the time. This is about a year and a half ago, and it's Thanksgiving. So you can see this is the end of November, and everybody came home and they were cooking, and they spiked things like crazy. But because I had an idea of what was going on in the house, we could figure out what it was, and we found out that we needed to turn up their fresh air supply when that happened. But yes, the carbon dioxide levels were going up because a lot of people were home. It was probably a bunch of different things, but we could figure out what was going on, and that's what we wanted to do. So here's my recommendations for carbon dioxide readings on the Foobot. Ignore them. Pretend they don't exist. They're going to drive you crazy. Just if you really want to measure carbon dioxide, get something different. What you do want to do, though, is because TVOC sensors pick up carbon dioxide, work hard to keep the TVOC levels low, because if you do, you're keeping carbon dioxide levels low as well. You also want to do your very best to keep the house dry and warm, because those are both going to tend to hold chemical pollutants levels down. And you'll want to bring in filtered and dry outside air. So if you live in a humid climate like I do, in the summertime it's very humid outside. If you're going to bring outdoor air in, you need to put it through a dehumidifier. That's a very tricky thing, big subject. We'll touch on that at the very end of this. All right, and again, flipping through that. All right, dust sensor. So sometimes these things will get stuck. You'll notice that it'll be stuck at, say, 1,000 micrograms per cubic meter when it should be, under 10, something like that. So it's very simple. All you need to do is get yourself some canned air. You probably could use compressed air, but I'd be careful because it's such high pressures. But all you have to do is blow it out. And this stuff has VOCs in it. So usually you will watch the monitor get a little bit mad, but that will typically knock the dust out of it and you'll be okay. So that's one thing. The next one is sometimes the VOC sensor will get stuck and you'll watch the thing being orange all the time. That's fairly easy to fix as well. You just go and you unplug the thing and plug it back in, or you can put the thing outside. This was something I discovered, this is an article from the Energy Smart Ohio blog a couple of years ago. When we painted our front porch, the paint kept setting off the VOC sensor, and it actually threw it off pretty badly for a while. But what we found was if you get those high levels, you can unplug it and plug it in again. Oftentimes that will reset it. You can set it outside for a little bit on a porch, someplace protected. Don't let it get wet. And in the case of these monitors, one thing that's pretty cool about Foobot is they're constantly comparing different monitors through their whole system, and they will recalibrate if they watch something get out of whack. So one day all of a sudden the levels came down and they stayed there, and it does still track with the other monitors. So I don't know exactly how they did it, but they will recalibrate over time in many cases. Okay, the next little issue, this is not a giant issue, like I've mentioned, it's a very bright light. And you can see in the picture here, note how it's shining out on the desk here. It's pretty bright. This thankfully was fixed a while ago. If you go into the settings on the app, you can change the LED intensity and dial that down. I found you can have it pretty low and still be able to see the LED light during the day, or there's also the timer, which you see just below there. So this has been totally solved. That's easy. And then the last big issue that I found frustrating at times, but I've also known about this tool the whole time, is the data can be tough to read. So with the most recent update, how you see the charts is far better than it used to be. I didn't really like what it was before. That has now changed so you can scroll through things and track things more easily, but it's still difficult. If you want to look at hour by hour what happened a month ago, there really isn't a good way to do it. But that may be true for the app, but you can go to the dashboard. So I showed this earlier. I'm very thankful that this is now free to everyone. So if you go to partner.foobot.io, you can go get yourself your own instance of the dashboard. And particularly if you have multiple Foobots, that is our favored way to use these things. We like to have one per floor in a house so that we can watch what's going on. Like you can see how they influence each other. So like for this jump right here, one monitor got a huge jump, so it was probably close to the pollution source, and then the other one was much lower. So you get to see whether things are connected or not. And it's really pretty fascinating what you can learn if you have a couple of these. And if you get the dashboard, you can figure all this stuff out. So those are the issues with Foobot air quality monitors. So obviously they have carbon dioxide issues, just ignore it. Fixing the stuck dust sensor, you blow it out. Fixing the stuck VOC sensor, you set it outside or you unplug it for a little bit. Solving the bright light, and using the dashboard to fix the data issue. So overall, this is still my favorite monitor. It's 3 years on. I keep waiting for somebody to come out with something that will kick its butt, and so far hasn't happened. So those are the issues with Foobot and how to fix them. Now, if you're watching this, you are obviously somewhat interested in air quality, so just want to make a quick plug for the diagnostic store on my website. So there's a store with all sorts of different sections, and it's not really just a store. You'll notice that every single product that's in there is something that we have tried or we know of people who use extensively, and it will have a miniature review on there and other things to go look at. So you can go snag different products. So like I mentioned the Yoo-Hoo. Here's my Yoo-Hoo. This picks up other things. So this actually has a separate carbon dioxide and a carbon monoxide sensor, which is pretty cool. These are not super easy to find, but you can get them at TruTech Tools, and the link there will get you there within the diagnostic store, and I'll flash a link to the diagnostic store here. So there's all sorts of stuff that you can learn and figure out. Now the issue is, if you get one of these and you find that there's a problem, what do you do next? And that answer lies primarily in a field called home performance, which is where I come from. It heavily involves both air sealing and insulation on one side and HVAC, the heating and cooling equipment, on the other. So if you want to get a basic and good understanding of those things, so that when you want to solve the air quality issues in your home, you have much higher odds of doing so, go and download. These are 2 chapters of my book. They're the 2 first chapters of the Home Comfort book. It's Home Comfort 101 and HVAC 101. Download these. They're fun reads. Comfort 101 is relatively long. HVAC 101 is super short and easy. So if you are trying to solve an air quality problem in your house, I highly, highly recommend that you go download these and read them in conjunction with having a monitor in your house. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. And if you've been considering a Foobot, hopefully that's helpful. And also, if you're planning to buy one, please use the links. That's how we pay for making these videos. And if you have any questions, please leave comments. And obviously, It's a YouTube channel, so the usual stuff that you hear. If you like it, please subscribe. If you really like it, click the bell so you get notifications of content whenever we put it out. Share it, comment, anything you like. So thank you all for watching. I'm Nate Adams, and I hope you have yourself a lovely day. Thanks. Bye-bye.